Hey guys, and welcome back to another video. And today I wanted to take a look at crafting. Now, in the past, Chris Roberts has said that he doesn't want traditional style MMO crafting in Star Citizen. But since then, the game has changed a lot. And uh, I think that it's a good thing that CIG is moving more towards this direction. Uh, the game wasn't so much an MMO in the past, and now it's really turned into kind of a more sandbox MMO experience that is a lot more, fully featured. Now, it has a new game director, Richard Tyler, and he really wants to make this game, I don't want to say more gamified, but he wants to make it feel like the things that you do have more purpose, right? So, crafting is a huge component with that to kind of create a type of symbiosis with all the different gameplay loops, right? So, it will have, a play economy and whatnot. So, this is going to be a huge shift for the game when it comes out 1.0. Beyond, presumably it might even be in testing before 1.0. I don't think crafting is that far away if they're also talking about base building. What version of crafting we're going to get, we don't know yet. But what I want to do in today's video is I want to take a look at the process and kind of talk about what this could mean for the game. So let's get right into it.
Let's bring them in order how you, as the player, will experience the crafting profession. You will start with acquiring the correct blueprints as the first step in the crafting process. As Jacob already mentioned, blueprints can be acquired in multiple ways. Let me give you some examples here. You can purchase commonly available blueprints, earn them from reputation and mission rewards, or even find them in loot crates. All content in our game could reward you with a blueprint. Some blueprints will be challenging to find, so players working together may find them easier to acquire. While you may find a blueprint on a datapad or other portable device, the blueprint itself is not a physical item. You don't collect them in a box or stack them on a bookshelf. Blueprints are digital. Once you claim one, it is permanently added to your personal library. This library is persistent to your character, and every blueprint you claim is yours forever.
Now, I just want to pause it there real quick because he says something that's pretty interesting, right? So, like he said earlier, you can get blueprints in a number of different ways. You can even find them in loot crates. You can buy them, and all the content in the game will give you an opportunity to find some type of blueprint, right? Now, what's interesting is that he says that, once you get these blueprints, they're permanently attached to your character, right? So that means that they're not tradable, and there's no system where you have a master blueprint and a blueprint copy, for instance, right? So I think the reason why they want to do that is because they want players to engage directly with the gameplay instead of trading it, right? So the idea is the player will get the blueprint and they'll craft that thing, and then what they craft is what gets traded. So they want to kind of make, a type of economy. Basically, you have certain individuals who will grind for these blueprints in the game, and they will be the individuals to go to get these crafted items, essentially. So right now, the way the game works is that everyone kind of does a little bit of every profession. I think moving forward, CIG doesn't want that. I think CIG wants players to kind of pick a path to go down, and you have individuals who kind of focus and specialize on a specific thing. They've kind of talked about this with kind of suit specialization, where you can wear heavy armor and be a sniper, but you might be a little bit more encumbered than somebody who's wearing sniper specific armor. So it's not that they want to force you down a certain career path, but they want to enhance the gameplay for people who specialize. And that's kind of the idea, I think, around not having blueprint copies, is that if I find a blueprint for a rare gun, I become the player to go to buy that gun, right? That gives my player character a little bit of importance, and I kind of become known as the individual to go to get this weapon. So I do like that, right? And then it kind of also makes it a little bit more fair for large orgs. Again, let's say you're in a large org and someone in your org finds a rare blueprint, you would be able to make copies of that for other people in your org, and then this org will be able to manufacture a lot of this rare thing. And I think that could be a potential issue for balance, rather than one person finds this rare blueprint and that one person in the org becomes the person that you go to get that rare thing, whether they're in that org or outside that org. So essentially it's a little bit more fair for solo players, because you know an org can't really capitalize off of blueprint copies. If I'm a solo person, right, I have less ability to create this item because I can't get as much resources as the individual in the org. But you don't have like 20 people making this thing. You still have just one person. So I think there's pluses and minuses to a system like this, but I think that CAG should continue down this road and explore what that could look like for Star Citizen's player economy. I don't think it's a bad idea to have, to not have blueprint copies, to not be able to trade blueprints. I think that overall it could be potentially better for the player economy than having a lot of copies floating around everywhere and people farming specific items. Again, I think rare things need to be rare. So if you can't trade a blueprint, that will keep the rare things more rare. Again, you guys could disagree with me in the comments down below. I love hearing from you guys. I'm always down there. I read every comment, even though I don't reply to them. I've read it, believe me. And I want to hear what you guys think about this, because this is a huge, very important system for the game. And all feedback is basically good feedback at this point, because CIG is really putting this information forward towards us, and they want to know what we think. So make your suggestions and let your voice be heard, so CIG can adjust accordingly.
Cannot be stolen or traded once claimed.
So you hear him say that it cannot be stolen or traded once claimed. Okay, so you might be able to find one of these blueprints and then turn it over to the designated manufacturing person in your org and just have them make everything for you, kind of like consignment. Because you're working as a team, you might have runners or explorers, people that go out into the open game world to find these blueprints, and then they bring it back to the one guy in the org that makes all the stuff. And then you have a bunch of people who are resource gatherers who go out and they just gather resources for the one guy in the org that makes all the stuff. That's kind of typical MMO behavior, honestly. In other MMOs, you will have a blacksmith, or you will have, someone who makes armor. These specific types of manufacturing players in your org, that's what they do. They spend their time focusing on perfecting that portion of the gameplay loop, and then other players kind of do the same. So they become very good at doing that very quickly, right? If you were trying to get good at dogfighting, trying to get good at FPS, trying to get good at medical, trying to get good at mining, trying to get good at salvage, you won't be very good at any of those things. But if you focused on just salvage, you'll become very good at salvage, and you'll be a lot more efficient for your org than if you try to do a million things. So I think that kind of creates this funnel that encourages players to specialize in certain things and get very good in them. And I think, again, that's what CIG really wants here with this system.
But it does not just end with acquiring blueprints. Those tiers of quality that Jacob mentioned are unlocked through blueprint research. Research requires a research data bank which can upgrade your blueprints. Upgrading here means that you unlock a blueprint that allows you to create a better, higher tier version of the same item using more advanced materials. Note, you will still have access to the lower tier versions if you want to craft the cheaper version. In order to upgrade a blueprint, you may need to perform certain actions. In this example, we need to craft 100-volt pistols and have one with a higher fire rate. Other examples would be collect resources, complete missions, or acquire research data from the Science Guild. Research is time-intensive, in addition to the action requirements. It will take time for the research data bank to process your research data and unlock the upgrade. You are also limited in how many research projects you can pursue at once.
Okay, so I'm going to stop right there. That was a lot of really good information that we definitely need to talk about. Okay, so there is a specific machine that we can see here, right? This machine right here. This machine, you put your blueprint in and you research the blueprint. So this essentially refines whatever recipe that the blueprint has by doing certain things. So you put the blueprint in and it will tell you make 100 tier 1 guns, and then I will extract the information from that manufacturing process and give you a better recipe, a better blueprint. So this machine upgrades your blueprints. It essentially is what's going on here, right? So you can, based on the examples he gave, do work for the Science Guild. Again, you could make multiples of this item and so on. And this will help, essentially, this machine's kind of like machine learning, right? You put information in and this machine kind of learns and gives you a better recipe, right? And again, I think that CIG is developing this mechanic to kind of encourage players to specialize, because as he said, it will take time to get good and make your blueprints better, to get those higher tier items, those better recipes out of that blueprint. So it kind of says to me that all blueprints you can find or buy are gonna create tier 1 items. So you find a blueprint and it's gonna make a tier 1 item, and then you have to put it in this machine to get the blueprint or recipe for like a tier 3 item. So this is a critical part of crafting that I guess you don't have to do if you just want to make tier 1 items and you don't care. But if you want to get good and specialize, you're going to need this machine, and you're going to need to put in the time to do research so you can upgrade that blueprint and make those higher tier items, right? So again, I think this is a good system, and it kind of tells us that CIG wants to make... So I think CIG's strategy is that you can do whatever you want, right? But they want to make it rewarding for people who put the time and effort in to do things. And I think that's a good strategy, right? I want to be able to get in the game and do whatever I want, right? I don't want to be limited to a class or anything like that. I don't want to be limited to, this armor can only do one thing, this ship can only do one thing, you know, I want to be able to do whatever I want. But if I take a combat ship and try to run cargo, that's going to be an issue, right? It's going to be more difficult to do certain things and more rewarding to specialize. And I think that's the direction CIG wants to go in. It's not that you can't do everything, but it is going to be more rewarding. You're going to get more rewards for specializing in certain fields. So let's keep going.
Now that you have your blueprint and you decided what to craft, you also know what resources to look for. Every blueprint you find will have unique requirements in their resource needs. It will not just be you need iron. We want to make use of the professions we have to meaningfully involve them in the crafting process. Especially for the more advanced blueprints, you can expect that it will require materials from multiple sources. And, as already mentioned by Jacob, pay attention to the quality. If you want to have the perfect item, you also need the best quality. Here, the best way to find the best resources is to get out and explore the world. If you want to find the best hidden materials, then you get yourself a top quality radar. Once you collected the raw materials, the next step is refining them. Refining, like crafting, requires blueprints. Refining blueprints take primary, secondary, and catalyst materials and produce refined materials. The rule is very.
Okay, so I know he just got started there, but I'm going to pause it there because, again, that was something that I didn't really grasp the first time watching this, right? So refining is also going to require blueprints, right? So right now, essentially, when you mine, you take it to a refinery and you pick the process that you want to use to refine that ore. So, you know, I get Quantanium, I take it to a refinery. There's a whole list of processes that I could use to refine that Quantanium, and it'll give me different yields. So we'll say using this process will give me this much Quantanium, and it'll be at that price, and it'll take however long. So I could choose, if I have more time, I could choose a longer process and get a better yield, for instance. So refining is moving over to a blueprint system. So I have to go out and find or buy blueprints for a refining recipe that he says will require a catalyst and other things. So this recipe will say, okay, you need X, Y, and Z. And then once you use X, Y, and Z, you put it in this in the refinery, you can now refine this ore to whatever quality, right? So if I find a blueprint and it's kind of like mediocre, I won't get the best yield. So I will need to go out there and get the best blueprints to have the best process to get the best yield. Okay, so strictly speaking, I believe personally, again, this is just my opinion, that you will more than likely be able to just buy tier 1 blueprints for refining. Again, I don't think they want to completely block off this content from everybody who wants to do it. And they've said that you'll be able to just buy certain blueprints. So I think for just the standard processes, you could go to a refinery and you can just buy a standard blueprint, and it'll tell you what the catalysts and other elements you are gonna need to do the refinery job. And then you take that standard blueprint and you get a standard thing, right? But if you want a faster process that has a higher yield, you go and you get however you require it. Maybe it's like a career reward, for instance. So if you are in the mining guild and you do a bunch of work for them, they will give you a better blueprint, because obviously you're working for them. They need you to produce better quality things, so they'll give you an upgraded blueprint, as an example. So that kind of encourages you to get involved in the story content, and not just, you know, mined by yourself in an asteroid belt, but you're engaging with kind of the story that CIG wants to put out in the future, and you're talking to NPCs and you're doing work for people, and then you get this upgraded refinery blueprint, and this has an advanced process that gets you a better yield. And again, that ties into this kind of holistic view of getting players into the content and creating that gameplay loop, essentially. So I do think it is a good thing, but it adds a level of complexity that I believe players will have opinions about naturally, because a lot of people and we hear this all the time. Maybe they have a couple of hours on the weekend to play the game. They don't have 16 hours a day to play the game. And again, it's not that they won't be able to play Star Citizen, but obviously if you have more time to do the story, to progress in your reputation with the guild and get better blueprints, then obviously you're going to do better. But I do think that's a good thing. Again, at the end of the day, a lot of MMO players, they like to get into the game day one and race to max level as fast as possible. And I think that CIG wants to stretch out the content, right? You start off, you're not going to be good at the game, right? No matter if you've been playing for 10 years or not, they want to kind of make it fair for, backers like me who've been, in the community since the Kickstarter days, and new players. So when 1.0 comes out, I'm just not going to have like the best gear. I'm going to have to go out. It doesn't matter what ship I have. I'm going to have to go out and I'm going to have to grind reputation and get better blueprints and, do research to be better at crafting. And it kind of levels the playing field and means that you have to play the game to be good at the game, right? It's not just about buying an expensive ship. Like let's say you have an Orion, but you don't have any blueprints. You're not going to be very successful, right? So you need to play the game to be good at the game. So people saying, oh, Star Citizen is pay to win because you could buy all these ships. Well, no, that's not true, because when you just because you have that ship does not mean you can be more effective than somebody else who has, done the research for their blueprints and gotten refinery blueprints so they can, refine better things. And at the end of the day, you in your Orion, you might end up going to that player who has that good refinery blueprint and say, hey, refine this ore for me so I don't have to do that. So those players who have those refinery blueprints that can get better yields, they become, like refinery operators, and they take the ore from players and they refine it better. So again, that leads us down the road that specializing in things will potentially make you more valuable in the community. And I like that. Let's keep going.
Very simple. The quality of the primary raw material defines the quality of the refined material. The secondary material you put in has an impact on the quantity and the time the refining process will take.
Okay.
An optional catalyst can speed up the process further. Let me give you a simple example. If you want high quality steel, you need to put in the best iron you have in the primary slot. You can put any quality coal in the secondary slot without affecting the quality of the steel. But the quality of the coal will influence how much of it you need to produce steel. As an example, if you put in low quality coal, you might require 4 SCU of coal versus high quality coal that only requires 2 SCU. This is one of the important use cases for low quality materials that Jacob mentioned. You can use refining stations in the world as they will be converted to this new process. You can build your own refineries for yourself. You can get your org to help you out, or you can simply trade for the materials that you need on the open market.
That's just what I was saying earlier, you know? You could be the refinery guy and you can just get the materials from somebody else, or, you know, vice versa.
Now we are reaching the final step. You got the blueprints, you gathered resources, and refined materials. Now you can create the item you want. And this item can be anything. You will be able to craft anything from FPS equipment to vehicle components, even entire vehicles and buildings. You just need access to the relevant crafting machine.
And this is huge. This is something I talked about in my earlier crafting video. Crafting machines. Again, other MMOs have this. This is not brand new technology or brand new ideas. You know, in other MMO, if you want to build, if you want to be a blacksmith and make weapons, you need to build a forge, right? If you want to, you know, build buildings and structures, you have to build a crafting table, right? So crafting machines is exactly like that. It's the same concept where you have the blueprint, you have the materials, you refine it down, and then you put it in a machine that specifically spits out an item, right? So if you have a specific machine that makes FPS weapons, you have a specific machine that makes components, you have a specific machine that makes armor. And the reason why that's important is because, again, it encourages players to specialize, right? If you specialize in making armors, or take the time to get the armor making crafting machine, then you're going to make better armor than somebody who has an armor making machine, a weapon making machine, a component making machine, right? Because it will be very difficult to research all of those things, get blueprints for all of those things, refinery blueprints for all of those things, materials for all of those things. Again, if you're in an org and you're the designated crafting person for that org, everybody's going to give you their blueprints. Everybody's going to give you their material, and you could progress much faster. But if you're a solo player, it will make more sense to specialize, right? Saying, I want to get into crafting, and I want my specialization to be FPS weapons. I want players to come to me for that super rare high tier gun, right? So I think that is going to, again, drive players to create this wider economy where there is dependencies, where I'm dependent on that player, or maybe even one org is dependent on another org, right? Let's say this org is a military org, and they're in alliance with an industrial org. So this military org provides protection for the industrial org in exchange for weapons and components, right? So these two orgs are now kind of in symbiosis together, right? They have that relationship. So I think it's going to make the game so much more full, right? It's going to make the game so much more alive because, you know, I'm dependent on this thing or this person. And again, it's gonna go from, you know, I'm just flying around on a planet to I'm doing all of these things every day that I log in. There's something new that I can do. You know, it's not that I log in the game and it's like, what is there to do today? Maybe I'll just go sightseeing. No, it's that every single day, okay, I can go look for a blueprint. I can go get materials. I can go crew up with someone else. There's always gonna be something happening with a system like this, and that's incredibly powerful. So I'm excited about that.
Talking about crafting machines, we will have a variety for you that differ in what process they can support, like a refinery or a dedicated vehicle crafting machine. We will also find them in various places. There will be communal ones like the station refineries you already know, player-owned that can be in your personal hangar, a vehicle, or your base. As all that we have talked about just now, these crafting machines also come in tiers. Here, the tiers will affect how well those machines do their job. You will not only progress in the products you produce, but also in the infrastructure to produce your wares. Just to give you an idea what you will encounter, here are some examples of the crafting machines. There is the nutrition fabricator, the chemical fabricator, an item fabricator, and even fabricators of a much larger scale we will talk about later.
You can see here in the background, they kind of hinted at this. It says right here, fabrication hanger. Okay, so you're gonna be able to make big things with something like this.
Talking about scale, I would like to talk about the future of crafting and the scale it will have in the game that you all know, and how it will change the game moving forward. As you all know, we have a lot of items in the game, and they all require their own unique blueprints. That means our aim is to have more than 1,000 blueprints that include the creation and the refining blueprints. And each of those can be researched to unlock tier upgrades up to tier 3 or tier 5. That's a lot of blueprints. And it will surely take a lot of time to unlock everything. So I, personally, recommend that you, as the crafter you are, focus on a specific field first and extend your knowledge from there.
Again, specialize. That's what was. It sounds to me that's what CIG wants us to do. They want us to specialize.
Collaborate and coordinate with your friends and fellow players. If you're part of a group, we invite you to share responsibilities with your org mates. Maybe you will be the FPS crafter while your friend is a ship crafter, but they know a ship component crafter specialist. There's a lot of content, and it will continue to grow over time. You are free to be a generalist crafter, a specialist, or something in between. Pick the blueprints you care about and be the best.
Okay, so I'm just gonna pause it right there, you guys. I think this is a very exciting system. I think it will completely change the game and make it feel so much more alive. I am very excited about this system. I realize it will have challenges, okay, in terms of balance and the economy. Because at the end of the day, CIG are going to have to balance between the materials and this just regular store-bought stuff. Because you can buy ships and games, components and weapons. How does the price of those things factor into what players can craft? Because the crafted items will obviously take so much more effort to acquire, but they will be able to be better. So that's why I kind of alluded to the idea that, crafted items that players can make will be the best in the game versus things that you could buy will all just be tier 1. So you go to the store or you buy something on the online web store, these will all just be tier 1 things. But if you want that tier 3 to 5, more advanced thing, you have to craft it. You have to go to somebody to craft. And again, that will make players want to engage with the system to have the best things. Okay, so I think that this entire strategy is very exciting. It's very interesting. We will learn more about this as time goes on. And of course, there are big questions about the economy, about player economy, and the in-game economy with the NPCs. But again, as time goes on, CIG will let us know how to balance those things. Obviously, player trading is a big component of this system, where we will be able to have terminals that other players can buy from, or they can come to our in-game shops, buy an item, and that will unlock it from a lockable grid, and they will be able to take that item. I think these are all good systems, and I think the reason why they want to lock it down to specific terminals too is to kind of avoid RMT and players basically just saying, meet me here, give me real money, and I'll give you the item. If you have to buy it through a terminal in game, you have to use in-game currency to buy that item, right? So I think that by doing that, that could kind of reduce RMT. Obviously, gold sellers or UEC sellers will continue to try to sell in-game currency to get around that. But there's a lot to discuss around the system, so I'm going to kind of end it off here. I know this video is a little bit longer. Let me know what you guys think about this system in the comments down below. Again, this is very critical for the future of the game, so your opinion matters, your feedback matters. I want to hear about it. I want to talk to you guys about it in the comments down below. Thank you so much for all the support on the videos. You guys have been rock stars, killing it. I cannot thank you enough. I love you guys. But that's going to be it for me here in today's video. And like I always say, at the end of these videos, you guys like the video if you liked it. Subscribe if you want to see more. And I will see you guys in the next one. Salut!